for attending our professional development series. So today we're going to be discussing SOS reporting online. This series is going to be recorded on WebEx and it will be sent to you after curriculum team day. Today we will be discussing SOS supporting online success, which explores navigating the learning about critical components of design and effective online and hybrid course. Let me introduce you to Alex Suchon.
Hello, everyone. Oh, thank you all for attending this session this afternoon. I see you guys have your desserts. Right now, so I'm jealous of y'all right now. But that means we're not gonna be hungry while we're watching it. We're going through this. We'll be satiated as we go through talking about supporting online success. All right, so I am Alex Suchon. I'm a manager of instructional design at LSD Online. And before I actually get into my PowerPoint here, I got a little activity for y'all. Basically, I kind of just want to know, who do I have in the room today, both in the audience here and those joining online. Would help if I put in my password, right? Okay. Okay. All right. So hopefully, y'all can see my screen. I just have a 2-question Menti before we kind of get kicked off. Who do I have joining in my room today? And if you're on WebEx, I hope you can see this. You are more than welcome to participate as well. I would love for my WebEx attendees to participate. So yeah, do me a favor. What best describes your role? Who is in the room with me today? What do you guys do?
In the codes at the top of the
Yes. 2882502. I can write it on the board if you need to. We got a few department chairs in here, just faculty at 15. Try to get the roles I thought I would have in the room with me today. Others, so I'm gonna figure out what's happening. Right. So I'm split between deans and department chairs, department chairs and faculty at our primary audience today. So thank you for taking a moment to kind of to indicate who you are and what role you are coming to the session as. So then I have another slide I would like participation before I kick into things. So why are you here today, right? What challenges are you facing with online teaching? You can speak out loud if you want, but this gives an opportunity to kind of just, for those in WebEx land, if they can't hear you, they can also see what you're participating here. So what are our challenges with online teaching? Why are we here today? Cheating. Good one.
engagement and beautifying my DTO course.
Okay. Ooh. Okay. I can do a whole session on that. You have no idea how much I have to take like everything in that today.
Let me know the next session.
All right. Well, we're working on those things. We're working on our training plan. I can tell you that. ChatGPT. Want to use this tool to teach. Yeah.
spell as well. I don't know why.
I wouldn't be surprised if there's a couple typos in my PowerPoint. So. Well, good. Communication, learn more ways to support my adjuncts who teach online. Oh, there are so many things I could say for all of these. All right. So, all right, well, we'll go ahead and get started. I'll get you guys going on our way today. So I appreciate you, those who have participated and those who are in the audience. I appreciate you being here. So we can talk about some of these things. Some of these topics I don't specifically address in the PowerPoint. That doesn't mean I can't answer questions at the end, or we can talk about it as we have questions throughout this presentation. All right, so we did our Menti activity. So one of the things I was kind of asked to address is, effective course design and why are we here? So let's talk about what's the importance of effective course design, right? So factors that contribute to fails or drops in online classes. This is research. These are statements I pulled from research articles that have looked into why do students drop out or why do students fail in online courses. A lot of these reasons or these particular ones are centered on course design and thinking about it like that. So the lack of course organization, disconnected illogical structures, boring and unrelated course elements, right? Unrealistic expectations about the time and effort to complete the course task. And then students have feelings of isolation and lack of community. So since those are the factors that contribute to fails or drops, we want to be able to address these, right? We want our courses to be organized. We want them to be engaging. We want students to feel like they're part of a learning community. So what we want to do and what I have thought about through this presentation, and I would appreciate all the feedback to help me fix the update this acronym. But we're going to design by STAR, because I kind of thought about SOS, thinking about that's the distress signal, right? When like people are out. Well, we don't want to have to send off the SOS, do we? No, right? But back in the day, ships, they used the stars to guide them, didn't they? So shouldn't we use our own star to help us think about designing courses? We're Lone Star, right? So bear with me for the ship and the water and the voyage puns today. Oh, I went overboard thinking about some of these things. So what I have here is designed by STAR, and these are in no particular order, but these are things to think about. We heavily talk about the first two, start with in mind and then tackle the twos. And then we kind of talk about what accessibility and those resources you have here at the college, or just what available resources you have to use. All right, so we want to design by STAR, right? And STAR, it's starting with the end. We're going to start with the end in mind. Actually, I didn't go over it. So start with the end in mind, tackle the twos, successfully rely on resources. All right, so starting with the end in mind. You're here at Curriculum Team Day. I think you guys already, you knew student learning outcomes. Really? That's the bulk of where you're designing your course. What do you need your students to be able to do by the end of your course? And how do you know your students are meeting those SLOs? So you want to think about that when you start your course. It's all about those SLOs, right? We want to start there. But then, when you also think about before you even get into nitty-gritty is think about your students. Who are your students? Who is in your course? How are you going to gauge those learners in your course? Do you have a lot of students who are coming in fresh out of high school? Do you have some of those non-traditional learners who are coming back, after, living their lives? Those are two distinct different groups in how you engage them in your courses, right? So those are things to think about. Who are your students and how do you want to engage those in your course? How do you want to engage the students in your course? So you want to chart your course. And this is where course design, this is our bread and butter here, thinking about your course. I know you guys probably all know how to do this, but I have to, as an instructional designer, talk about where we start. We want to start with our SLOs, right? So you want to determine how are you going to assess your students based on those SLOs? How are you assessing them? What are those assessments in your course? What learning, kind of practice activities support your assessments? So if you have a major exam, project, test, whatever, how are you ensuring your students have done activities to get them to essentially pass that assessment, right? And then, of course, what learning materials will your students use? What do you need them to use to achieve those student learning outcomes? And We're starting with all of these things. I promise you there's a method to my madness here with charting our course. All right, so based on the SLOs, you're going to think about all those things. And then we're going to start planning our course. We're going to start charting here. And I want you to think as the instructor's the captain of the course, right? You're the captain. You're going to guide your students on this learning voyage. Sorry, I got really into these voting thoughts. And see, we're going to keep students from feeling lost in the sea of your course. I'm sorry, if you got more boat ones, we'll keep going. All right. So think about charting when you think about that course, how are you guiding your learners to achieve those learning outcomes? So think of yourself as the captain. You're guiding them. You aren't telling them what to do, but you are guiding them and getting to that learning destination. So this is where we start with the charting of the course because we need to know how we're gonna get to where we're going so we know what we need to tackle next. So right here, we end our charting the course with staffing your course activities. And make sure they make sense for the modality and the duration of your course. Are you teaching hybrid or are you teaching online? What you do with hybrid is a little bit different than what you do with online, correct? Because hybrid, you have the advantage, I would say, of having your students in a set time, having them for a set amount of time, right? And usually in person if we're doing it hybrid. So how you use your time in person with your students makes a little bit difference than how you want to structure their time online. What do you do different between hybrid and online, especially if you're teaching the same course in different modalities? 16 versus 8 week. Think about that. I know sometimes a lot of people, when they take a 16-week course and they move into 8 week, they just crunch up the timeline. But you don't necessarily have to do that. You just want to be sure your students are meeting those SLOs. So if you can, I'm not gonna, you're the curriculum team, so you tell everybody what things need to be in their courses, but there are some things you can cut out if you only have 8 weeks of time with them. So don't feel like you have to take a 16-week and everything they did in 16 weeks has to be shoved into 8 weeks. Cut out the things that those were nice, but we don't have time in 8 weeks to accomplish that. But in 16 weeks, we can accomplish that, right? So how your modality, your duration does make a difference on how you kind of want to structure that course. And then think about what do your students need to do each week? What is necessary and what's nice to have in the course, right? What do you need them to do? What's nice? What's a nice activity? I would like them to do this, but if they don't get to it, it's not going to prevent them from, meeting those assessments and meeting those SLOs. All right, so we thought about the charting of the course. We thought about how we're going to, what our duration is, our assessments, but this is where we really get into actually building out the course. It's tackling those to-dos. Tackling the to-dos of the course. And all of this you do, at least from instructional design point, you can do all of this without touching D2L. You do some of this before you even put it all in D2L. Think about your course before you put it in D2L. How do you want it to look? I've worked with the Bachelor's of Nursing group, and we started from the ground up, that whole program. But they had it built out in Excel. And we had every course and what are they doing in this course? What are they doing in the next course? What are they doing by the end of that program? And so I thought about it like that. Where are we at in that course? So that's where I say some of these things you can do these all offline without touching D2L, because then what you do at the very end is put it all together, right? But we think about it in the background. So tackling your to-dos. So we've thought about the course, we've charted our course, we're tackling our to-dos. That involves developing your assessments and learning activities. You're going to create quizzes, exams, tests, your projects. This is going with those assessments. What are the rubrics? How are your students going to be assessed on those assessments, right? You're also curating or developing learning materials during this stage. Those learning materials and content. Those activities involve reviewing publisher OER materials, recording your lectures, creating study guides or other course materials here. And when you think about when you're pulling together your assessments and your content, you want to think about how you're using all of this in your course. A lot of instructors utilize textbook or publisher materials, but you don't want your course to be only textbook and publisher materials, right? You want to include some of those other your personalized instructor materials. So here we have, includes personal insights, videos, or links that bring that textbook content to life a little bit more. You want to connect your content to those real world situations. How are they using that material in their course in the real world? Anyone teach math? All right. How are you taking those math and those real world equations and making it make sense, or those that take your math equations, making it sense in the real world? Because I can't tell you the last time I used a linear equation, but maybe I don't know, right? I don't know that I'm using the linear equation because I haven't thought about it that way. So what you also want to do, whatever content you pull in, you want to differentiate it. Use those variety of materials. It's not just a reading every week. Maybe they have a reading. Maybe they have a short video. Maybe they have a link to an interactive lesson. It really depends on what your content, your material is. What I tell a math instructor is not the same thing I'm going to tell our drama instructor over here and theater, and what I'm going to tell English, because you teach different content and you teach different subjects, right? So engagement looks different in your courses. And then what I have also on here is our last big one: humanize yourself in the course. If you're not already doing that, put yourself in that course. Make yourself real for your students. They don't want to sign in and just complete activities that they submit and they act like their instructor's not there. They want to know that you were there in that course, and that looks different. So create welcome and instructional videos for your students. You can even include yourself in their feedback. Cameron, no, where is it? I'm looking at it. I'm thinking of D2L. Like, why am I saying that? I go back to my old days of training. But no, in D2L, like in your feedback section, you can do a nice little video recording, just saying, hey, liked your paper, or here's a couple points, and you can generate a video feedback for them. Maybe that's less time consuming than you typing up all of that feedback to them, right? So there's ways that you can put yourself in that course so those students know you are there. And that's gonna help them reduce those feelings of isolation to feel like they're part of that learning community. All right, and a couple other things to think about when it comes to D2L and tackling these to-dos. So you've kind of created and curated all your assessments. So you just want to organize it in a sense that you want to organize your course that makes sense for your students and for your course content. A lot of people do weekly modules. For students, it's a good model. They like knowing what to do week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Not every course has to be week by week. There are some instructors who teach government or history. For them, sometimes they break up their course into units. So it's still weekly, but they start unit 1, but it covers maybe multiple weeks, right? But they structure it in such a way that it makes sense for their content, because maybe they're teaching a war. And so you cover that war in this unit, and then you move on to another unit. So think about how that content is broken up in D2L and how it's like there. Can your students navigate your course and have a clear path to know what they need to do and when? So you want to be sure all those materials are provided within the module. So if they're doing an assignment, if they're watching a video, put it all there. They should have one unit for their lesson of everything that they need to do. Because for them, the treasure is probably getting a grade, right? They want to be able to be successful in your course. So set them up for success. And that goes along with setting expectations, right? You want to be able to tell your students exactly what you want them to do and when to do it, or when they're supposed to do it. So you want to include those expectations, your syllabus as part of course reminders, on the assignment itself, on anything in that course where they need to know, how do I need to do this? What do I need to do? What are my instructions on how to do this? That's where rubrics also come in handy with expectations, right? If you have an assignment, what is their expectation and how are they supposed to earn that A on that assignment? So think about that. How are you setting those expectations for your students? And then this is probably a bigger one that I kind of put in here. When you think about your courses and your expectations, ensure your syllabus matches D2L. Especially the grade book, because we have seen in the support area, we have the mismatch between the syllabi and the grade book for those students, and students are confused if the grade book or things in the course aren't matching the syllabus, because you all want your students to read the syllabus, right? And you want them to live by that syllabus. So be sure that what you're telling them in the syllabus also matches in D2L. If you have a points graded system, be sure your grade book is in points. If you're using a weighted graded system, be sure your grade book is in weighted, is weighted, and that you have appropriately weighted those items based on your syllabus. So, all right, so those are tackling the to-dos. But what I haven't covered yet, and very important thing, is accessibility in your course. All right, so we've thought about all those things, like talked about all the things you need to think about, but what we haven't thought about in the middle of all of this is your accessibility. If you were not aware, there was a Department of Justice ruling earlier this year that basically stated institutions need to make all web and online course content accessible in the next 2 years. So we have till April 2026 to make our web content accessible. As instructors, you're responsible for the content in D2L. The website is not your problem. That is someone else's problem, the website. But D2L would be something that you would be responsible in making accessible content. So we have several tools available, and you have tools at your disposal that will support accessibility. If you haven't already checked out and utilized Ally, that's going to be a major tool to help you with determining the accessibility of your content. Ally is our tool we have in D2L. It checks the accessibility of documents, videos, things like that. Anything that it can read that data, it's not going to be able to determine the accessibility of external websites. So if you link to the Department of Justice, it's not going to check for that accessibility. That's going to have to be a different web checker. But accessibility will check the accessibility of your D2L content. We have a whole article on that. And then Yuja. If you were not familiar with Yuja, Yuja is our lecture capture software. So those of you were, because I've told you now, or I've advised to create those personal learning materials, right? Put your face out there for your students. The software we promote and we support is going to be Yuja. That's our lecture capture software. It has the ability to, of course, record you, your camera, your screen, and then also caption your videos. It will do automatic captioning. That doesn't mean it's 100% perfect, because I'm going to pick on math here. Or math. The sciences don't have it well either. They've got some funky words in there too. So Yuja is gonna, get you a good starting place for your accessibility in captions there. I know several instructors will get their captions going and then they'll just go back and perfect them. Because that's what I recommend doing. Don't stress yourself out. Let it do the auto captioning and then go back and fix the imperfections. All right, so you've got Yuja for lecture capture, and then you've got Office 365 with built-in accessibility checkers. If you haven't used them, they're fantastic. I probably need to run the accessibility checker on this PowerPoint. I haven't done that yet because I was working on it earlier. But what it will do is go check and tell you how to remedy your document, just like the I will, but it will be within the Microsoft software. So you'll be able to be sure like you have headings there, because that's important for students who might use a screen reader. That's how screen readers read their documents. They use the headings and the way that reading order of your document is to be able to read that document to your students. So that's where math folk here. What I didn't leave up here, and I forgot what I can put up, is on that link there, Equatio. If you're not using Equatio, that's going to be your tool. So Equatio is another tool for math, science people who need to do equations. That tool has the ability to kind of develop accessible images, and then also the word version, I say, of like what the equation is. That makes sense. So yes. So throughout, when you're thinking about your course, you also want to think about those accessibility of your materials. If you're unable to make it accessible, that maybe is not the best material to use, right? If it's not accessible. But for most things, we should be able to make them accessible. And of course, there is the Disability Services Department that does work with students on an individual basis if they need accommodations outside of what we're able to do with our technology. right. Well, I'm doing good on time. Okay. And then, so I said STAR, right? So we talked about accessibility, and now you want to rely on your resources. You are not alone in this course development process at all. You have people available to you, and you have resources available to you. I could sit here all day and talk about the wonderful team I have of instructional designers, but I'm not going to do that all day. I am going to shamelessly promote them here, though, because they are going to be your best bet to, if you want to start out thinking about your course revise process. I'm not going to say revamp or we're going to redo it. You might want to revise it. So you have instructional designers who are able to talk to you, and they're going to be able to help you with kind of vetting materials. They're going to be able to talk to you about engagement in your course and help you address challenges that you might have. So I know some of you have, we mentioned cheating. I haven't even talked about cheating today. How you design your assessments helps with cheating. The more authentic of an assessment you have, the less likely they are to be able to cheat. So we do have something on feedback about authentic assessments. So how can you make it an assessment that's personal to those students where they're not as able to use AI? Now they still will probably, but you've got designers and people here to help you kind of guide through those questions you have related to your content. So your designers are going to kind of help you with your course design. When something breaks, like the technology, you have online technologists who are also available. They are at the campuses. Designers are also at the campuses now too. When we are not working, there's also the VTAC guide. Well, the VTAC guides are always there, but if you want live support, those are the top two. But the guides are also there when you're working at midnight and there's not live support. Those guides will walk you through how to do most things. Now, those guides are not going to tell you how to design your course. I would rather you call one of our instructional designers for that. And then you also have other resources too, because you are not alone in this process. Like I said, you have colleagues who teach the same course and material issue. I don't. I'm sorry. I'm not a subject matter expert in all of the subjects that you teach. I'm a subject matter expert in this, in course design and technology. So that's where I would take advantage of your colleagues, those who are also teaching that subject, who might have had more experience or different experiences too, who have been teaching that longer. Each campus I know might have some individual resources that aren't always available to all the other campuses, so take advantage of those. The libraries are super helpful. They're some of my favorite people because they have access to everything and they will tell you more than I know. So and then also, I mean, I have to mention ChatGPT. I did follow Tim, who did talk about course design using AI, and it is a wonderful resource because it will help you generate things that maybe you're struggling on your own to come up with. It will help you organize and you can kind of think up of things. There's a way, like if you're struggling to tie your course to real world scenarios, plug it into ChatGPT. I'm sure Tim will help you write the right prompt to get it in there and help get out what you need to get out. All right, and then before I let you guys go today, a couple of things for you. Don't be afraid to ask for help or collaboration. Like I mentioned before, we have instructional designers who want to help you with the courses. Those of you who are department chairs, I don't know what your needs are at your campuses. We're able to help with developing what we call shareable courses. So if you have adjuncts who are teaching, you have overturned adjuncts are coming in and you want to be able to just give them a course, we can help with that. We would love to be able to do that. Did that spark something? Yes. So yeah. So that's something that honestly to help students be successful. Can you give somebody a course that they can start from? Because sometimes the lead time, you don't have enough lead time to actually build out what we think would be the best effective course. Especially those adjuncts who get hired like what, the week before it starts? Maybe the day? Yeah, we've tried to work on you got hired the Friday before, here's what you need to do. But we don't want that scenario. We really don't. We want to set our students up for success, and some of that really is truly having lead time on thinking about your course. So don't be afraid to ask for help or collaboration, and don't be intimidated by change. Just try one thing. If you think you want to try something out in your course, do it. But don't feel like you have to implement all the changes at the same time. That's going to overwhelm you and you're going to go crazy. Don't do it. If you have changes you want to make, let's talk about what are the things that are going to make sense for you and your course load. What do you want to change in your course? Maybe you want to try it out in one course and see how it works, because if it blew up in that course, you don't want to do that again, do you? You don't want to do that 5 times over. No. So think about those changes. What changes do you want to make? Start thinking about this. What changes do you make and you haven't made them yet, and why? Why haven't you made those changes yet? Because then we have people here to help you make those changes. As stated here, some small changes over time really do make a big impact on student success. So that's what I have for y'all today. I've got a few more minutes, so if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them for you. If not, that's all I've got for you. You're welcome.
I have a question.
Yes.
If you have materials, like you said, to put in your class that are maybe from like PDFs when they get off the web, and it is accessible. What do you like? And it's there, so you don't want to go in there and fix it and make it accessible. So what do you do?
Great. Well, you might be able to make it accessible as a PDF unless it's locked down. Because some of that you might just need to change the reading order of the PDF. But that's a really good question about what
They're
you
coming
do.
from like websites and things like materials that says pull this down, and then you go when you put your class and Ally had to check off as a certain whatever, and then you're like,
Well, Ally will also provide an accessible format. It tries to make those accessible formats as well. So the first remediation would be try to remediate that document if you can. Because not every PDF is locked down, and it might just be tagging the reading order, and that's all it needs to be done.
so it's okay to do that.
If the PDF isn't locked down, why not? Because to me, you're not changing the content of it, are you? No, you're making it accessible for your students.
Correct.
You're taking a material that was provided to you that should have been accessible, but it's not. But all you've done is just told a software how to read that document properly. So it really depends on what the problem is with your inaccessible content. Other questions? Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. I want to make it accessible before I share it. Working on it really quick so it looks good for you guys. I haven't tagged everything yet, so before I share it, I want to be sure I am, modeling proper course design.
So
Yes.
our email or how?
Oh, that's a great question.
You want us to do a sign-in sheet?
Oh, here, hold up.
Actually, I'm getting some of that just by checking. Checked it this morning.
Mhm. I was like, I don't know how things were run today, but
That's what they told you what they expect. Like, we checked in.
Yeah, that's what that is.
Oh.
Yes, yes.
That's not-
okay. Well, if you would like my PowerPoint, we can make this really easy. I'm just gonna do a quick word cloud here. You can just add your email to this slide, and I will email specific people. But what I was gonna do is really send this to the organizers and whoever is responsible for distributing and get it out. But if you would like me to email you directly, feel free to fill it out on the Mentee again, and that'll be just as quick. There you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for attending today.
So I'm on the opposite. And so they changed how to touch and I'm over everything is we do there. So we have different subjects
Yes.
that I don't know anything about. But my problem has been when I'm high on this problem.
Long day.
So people don't know how much and
So, thank you, Alex.
You're welcome. Thank you for attending today. I hope this was useful, helpful. Shameless plug, please just meet the instructional designer.
but that's my biggest problem. It's like I'm
If you want her to send yeah, I'll be in my office probably, then I'll come back for the conversation. Then what I can do is drop it.
I'll let you know. Okay, yeah.
and that's what I've been asking.
Are we gonna And
Well,
I
it's.
think so.
Really.
No, but then.
Yeah, what's everybody, because that's not my problem, I'm not just like, if I feel that president has to hire me, that would have the options being so automated, and like, so, oh yeah, it's.
No, it's the, isn't it?
Right. I'm trying to hire an artist to start with, it's so, like, how do I get it? It is a new person.
I'm barely looking at that because I think you said that it's one of the.
So I contact. So that's how I need right now.
Yes.
Okay. That's good. So much use. Yeah, thank you. I have.
It was, I think it's actually about 2 minutes.
Yeah, otherwise my dad, yeah, I'm like.
I saw it and I was like, I didn't see any like emergency, so I'm gonna say.
Yeah, it's that's what all, so last, I said with last year. I was so scared as council for students.
It's okay, that's every.
You sound like you sounded familiar.
That's probably my last year. But
It's like a, that's all comes together. Yeah.
So now it comes.
Figured out that way and all that, and then it said I need to like, talk to you first. I gotta reach out.
And then so, and now.
Here.
And you are over again. So I have 44, so patient present and so you know, guys, I have to struggle. So people that are struggle then here, we now have to.
It's just a meal in the grant. Yeah, you
But I don't have
reach there, you say,
and so we can
they can try to get funding and they have, or they already have it and they have to pay something, I don't know what. It is gonna be busy. So, one of the things is the accreditation, the years, like, over 2 years. Yep. And we're.
That's not true. And so
So you're writing it down. Oh, so.
right now, center of course workforce, but they're pretty much done. Right now, I haven't currently I subscribers.
Let's get to that. Okay, well, good day.
So I'm gonna have to do more about but I'm trying to shoot at my post on an interview. I was asked to do this week. So that hopefully helps me tell it doesn't no one how
We'll get you up. You can kick us off, whoever's managing.
that's gonna deal with us. I think I can talk to